me, Justin House, on my 666th day of ISO. It's going to start Insta as well, bear with me. And that's about as still as I can get. And a very warm welcome to TrueHouse, episode 455. With me, Justin House, today, Tuesday, 4th of January 2022, stating the obvious new year, but today is a special one. It's my 666th day of lockdown, so I've been swerving the V in every sense of the word, and not just my own logic, as I've explained many times on this stream, not just my own conclusion, but that of not 4, but 5 medical professionals that we call doctors. So yeah, good enough for me. But day 666, here we are. So I had to double check with my own diary. Obviously, late Feb, early March last year. I think it was the 9th off the top of my head. But I've counted the days twice today. So today is day 666. And of course, just for a bit of fun, make of that what you will. Episode 455. And here we are. What's to talk about? Always a lot to talk about. Thank you for being here. I have made a couple of notes, which is something that I endeavour to not do, but just to make it official. There we are. Okay. So, all right. Really, it would be rude of me. I would be remiss to not ask you guys what you've done to maintain your mental health. I know it's like a buzzword to talk about mental health awareness. Repeatedly on this live stream, I've spoken about I long for the day when, in passing, you could say to anyone, whether it be a family or friend or partner or colleague or whatever, in any capacity, you could casually say to someone, "Are you keeping well? How are you?" Because one of our, in terms of how we conduct ourselves, how we speak, our repertoire, the vernacular, just the way we engage with each other, it's almost like a throwaway statement, isn't it? To say to someone, "Hey, hey Bob, how you doing? You keeping well? How's the kids? How's the family?" These are the things we say. These are the customs, these are customary customs when we engage each other. And I think it would be certainly progressive. There you go. Yes, I like that. I like that idea. Yeah, more psilocybin. Actually, I can tell you a funny anecdote about that. We've got well, it's not a farm, but we've got a place here in an area of England called Essex. And Essex counties are the largest collection of counties in the UK. If you look at the Essex, I'll share this with you, Jake. It's quite a funny one. You might enjoy it. If you were to take a bird's eye view of bear in mind the UK fits, I think the UK fits into Texas 3 times, and it fits into oh God, what's the cold bit called? Alaska. I think we fit into Alaska 4 times and Texas 3 times. I mean, don't quote me on that, but the UK is very small. If you take an aerial photography patchwork quilt view of the UK, there's a vast sort of area of the UK called the Essex counties, and I lived there for 7 years. And there's an iconic place called of course, medicinal use only, Your Honour. Yeah, indeed, Inspector. And this place has become iconic. It's called Gnome World, now spelled Gnome. And I don't know how you guys are in America with gnomes, but as in garden gnomes, smoking gnomes on a mushroom, the whole culture, the whole history, gnomes. And I even though I lived in America for just over 3 years, I'm not sure if gnomes are a thing in America, but they certainly are here. I mean, you might just call them garden ornaments, but what you would see typically this is a common occurrence in the UK. If you go past someone's front lawn and they take great pride, these people that you could, they get down with nail clippers, and they're very sort of fastidious about how they keep their fantastic lawn. They're very proud of their grass. We have in the UK garden gnomes, like I say, GNOME. Smoking on a toadstool, on a mushroom, you can see where I'm going with this, of course, with psilocybin. And Gnome World in Essex counties, as Essex goes into Suffolk, this is one of the oldest towns in the UK, actually. I think it's a Saxon town. Anyway, I lived there for 7 years, all over this region. And on a Sunday afternoon, I just finished, this is when I'd retired from bodybuilding. And in my retirement, as a lot of competitors are asked to do, you then judge shows. It's like, those that can't do teach, those that can't do judge. So I was judging a show on a Sunday afternoon, and that required a couple of shifts. And between shifts, we were staying in a hotel, my girlfriend at the time, and we went to this place. Absolutely less harmful than alcohol. No, I agree. If you think about statistically, the number one drug for, I know we shouldn't say causation, correlation, but I make you right. I feel like Elliot Ness, Kevin Costner, Untouchables. Let's do some good, prohibition, please. But in terms of damage, death, destruction, car wrecks, divorces, domestic violence, I mean, I'm very careful what I say on this live stream about my brother's profession. But suffice to say, my brother, law, deals with humans acting in the most despicable way, namely domestic, and it's always alcohol, the underlying constant between humans hurting each other, humans killing each other, humans crashing cars. I know in America, what do you call it? It's DUI, isn't it? And we just call it, drunk driving here, driving under the influence, whatever. But yeah, whether it's smoking pot, smoking grass, weeds, or psilocybin, or just back in the day, I used to do a lot of lysergic acid, LSD, just dabbing and tabbing, and these are peaceful. These are peaceful things. These, as you say, these are peaceful things. Alcohol is often not peaceful. This sunny Sunday I spent at Gnome World, which was actually built on psilocybin mushrooms, and the people that made it's an entire area of forestry. We've got the National Forestry Commission here. It's called the National Trust. And the National Trust in the UK is areas of really sort of bespoke forestry, which are devoted to the environment, the horticulture and agriculture. And of course that, leads me to this sort of larger point that there's, if I just anecdotally, Jay, if I just say to myself, all the dozens and dozens and dozens and hundreds of times in my life where I've A, had a whale of a time, B, literally pissed myself with glee, with laughter, with fun, and just peace-loving, literal hugs and kisses, and seeing the world, having nature speak to me. And I've interacted socially, pubs, clubs, whatever, drinking establishments with friends on mushrooms, and had the best time. And I certainly am an advocate for mushrooms and weed, and just the I shouldn't really say universal encouragement, but certainly the legalization of, and the stigma, the deeply unhealthy stigma, absolutely. I remember I used to share some texts back and forth with Tate Fletcher. I don't know if you know that much with MMA. Tate Fletcher, what was his coffee company called? God, I'm forgetting now. Anyway, Keith Jardine and Tate Fletcher, friends of Rogan's, as in Joe Rogan. Years ago, I'm actually blanking. Was it not Black? No, Black. No. Oh my God, I'm blanking on their coffee company. Anyway, but they're hugely pro mushrooms, and I had some glorious times on mushrooms, and fun enough, my most paranoid, upsetting, stressful, times where things went to shit, in socially or with girlfriends, or aggression, and just feelings of anxiety and paranoia. Alcohol, 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 alcohol. Where I've in my younger days, I mean, I'm 50 in 14 days time, but certainly late teens, 20s, 30s, just the times of partaking and having fantastic experiences were always on those sort of psychedelic substances, and using psilocybin, and mushrooms in general, and just weed, and just having an amazing time with friends. And some of the best memories and some of the worst memories have come from taking other so-called social substances. Like I say, the sort of go-to things that people, dare I say, party drugs that people go to, booze, coke, ecstasy, BCE. I just, not good. And in my 17 years of door work as well, I mean, I spent 17 years of my life being a doorman. I know the popular word is bouncer, but every personal trainer slash bodybuilder slash model was a doorman as well. It's the two, are just stitched. They're all stitched together. Therapeutic 3.5 grand to get behind the wheel of a car. I'm taking half a grand after dinner. That's so funny. Spot on, mate. Spot on, mate. It's funny. No, not at all. It's not. I'm not recommending that at all. That's so funny. That's bloody hilarious. But yeah, you're right, mate. It's just, it's so funny. That's tickled me. That's really funny. Good man. Yeah, it's funny old world, isn't it? Again, the stigma, and on that note, I go a bit of a Debbie Downer, but it's happening across the board. I was doing my cardio. I'm looking over there because in the corner of my flat here, I've got a stationary bike, and I was doing an hour's cardio earlier on, and pedaling away, watching a dear friend of mine, Doreen Yates, on a podcast for 2.5 hours, and the subject of psychedelics came up, and of course all the social stigma attached to the sort of political frowning on these things. And it's certainly true as far as party drugs. You can't get much safer than mushroom. Of course, there's a different story with that educated. Yes, you do need what I call hand holding. I had there's a lovely chap, actually. I think every local area has their each town, or each sort of vicinity has their guru, that their allocated local dude, that's sort of like, well, literally like the dude from Big Lebowski, isn't it? And we had a chap called Carl, and I never knew his surname, and he was, God, he must be 60 now, because he was 10 years older than me, and I was 22 and he was 32, 33. So yeah, he must be 60, 61 now, but he lived in a cardigan, the type of, like Starsky and Hutch, the Starsky, is it Paul Michael Glazer used to wear this sort of trademark big neck, and this was like literally summer, winter, he'd live in this cardigan. He was really like one of them. There's a real, what we call air quotes, hippie, but he was the local cook, and we would congregate around his flat, and literally leave with a bag of, and I mean, to put it in perspective, if we're talking sheer safety, and I'm sure you'll relate to this, whether it was mushrooms or just weed, like the worst side effects that I ever experienced, and you're talking, you know, yeah, I've known Doreen for a long time, very long time. Gosh, 93, 97, and then he opened my gym. I opened my gym summer '04. So that was what, 17, 18 years ago. I've just been texting with Dorian literally now on this phone. Obviously, as you know, I'm a bit of a phone freak. There's the Pixel 6 Pro, and that's the 13 Pro Max and S21 Ultra. But I was literally texting back and forth with Dorian. He just sent me a lovely picture of his dog Jack. He from this morning. Hello, good evening. Nice to see you. But yeah, I'd like to get Dorian on. I mean, I just said to him, look, it would be lovely to have a chat. We've got a local, comparatively speaking, in the UK, a local guy called True Geordie, who's got a big, sort of platform, and they recorded. Dorian was here back in the UK. Obviously, he lives in Spain with his wife Gal, but an area of Spain called Porto Banús, and I keep threatening to go out there. Obviously, travelling is a bit prohibited at the moment, but yeah, Dorian's been a very dear and influential friend. I mean, he's turning 60 in April, so I'm a proud Gen Xer, and of course, what Dorian's done is to actually improve with age, and that's, I think, very inspirational. Also, as you know, he's an advocate for all this sort of stuff, and so there's someone else there that I know, but yeah, it's. Dorian's days go back to the sort of Bob Marley, days of smoking, and of course, being a Brit. I remember when I first moved on. I'm going a bit of a sidestep, just in tangent, but seeing as you've asked, I'll mention it. When I first moved out to Venice Beach, January 2000, I was there for just a shed over 3 years. All the American pros there were very much like, "What's Dorian like? What's Dorian like?" And they're like, "Do you know him?" I was like, as a matter of fact, yeah, and I worked for a company here called CNP, Chemical Nutrition Products, which were originally the late Paul Borison started this company with a guy called Kerry Kays, and it was called Chemical Warfare. Those of you that are into bodybuilding might remember the original skull and crossbones logo of Chemical Warfare. And all my American friends loved the sort of British grit of it because it was Dorian. And when Dorian retired in '97 after his sixth Olympia, after the sixth Sandow, obviously Dorian's reign was 92 to 97 inclusive. He stopped at 35. That's what people don't forget. He's been done 25 years, and he's actually arguably culturally grown bigger since his bodybuilding departure. It was also a very clandestine group of us that were the British bodybuilders, and of course Dorian has always been and will always be synonymous with what we would call real, in terms of application of training, a very hardcore approach to training, and it's principles that certainly throughout my career. I retired from the sport in 2007, but I got a lot of love for him. I just literally minutes before I came on, I just left him a typically verbose Justin voicemail just on WhatsApp. When you flip up to record, and just he's always been. I'll tell you the sort of influence he's had with me. When I started, let me give you an example of, he was very kind to me. Well, he opened my gym, which was nice because that was just to have him come down. This was when I was living in Essex, and I opened my own gym, Workhouse Gym. It's like I say, it's '04. I was done by '07, so that was my retirement. I didn't know what was coming down the pike, as it were. I didn't know that I would come to such an abrupt end, and my career would come to such an abrupt end. But that's what a cancerous spine tumour and kidney failure will do to you, as well as almost losing my right leg in an altercation. That was the end of door work as well after 17 years. Anyway, but Dorian was nice enough to come down, seminar, barbecue, the gym, like I say, as August '04. And he himself, post Olympia, post his identity as, Dorian Yates, Mr. Olympia, he he had that void. There's a delta between, a good bodybuilder and then, an Olympian bodybuilder. As you know, it's a very select pool of people, of which there are about 20, of which there are about 5 that will ever be in with a chance, globally. You know, you have to be genetically predisposed to do these things. I was a good British bodybuilder, but not an Olympian, of course. And I think what Dorian's done is very smartly sidestepped into another world, and I was saying to him tonight, whether you like it or not, because I think he gets a bit embarrassed. He's typically that kind of part of England. It's very modest, and a degree, well, quite a large degree of humility. But during my hospital stays, that's what I remember Dorian for. Is like he would send me messages when he knew. I mean, like when my kidneys failed, I remember he was helpful. Just whether it was a simple text or a voicemail, and he first spoke about me on 2013 London Real. I know obviously the relationship with Brian Rose from London Real has disbanded, and rightly so. I'm no fan of what London Real morphed into. I think it's deeply unhealthy. And of course, the Dorian that a lot of people now know, that launch pad was that 2013 edition of London Real. And in that very podcast, he spoke about a friend with kidney failure, and that was me. And he spoke about, how the use of non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, NSAIDs, ibuprofen, caused the cessation of one's kidneys, me. And that was a bit, sort of cautionary tale. If I ever do anything with him on here, it will be to discuss the 50 dead bodybuilders currently, that have happened the last couple of years, and just, even my own medical stuff, just, a couple of heart attacks, the 2 stents, the kidney failure, the dialysis, the transplant, the spine cancer, the list goes on, the sepsis, the pneumonia, the thrombocytopenia, hepatosplenomegaly. And, one of the things that came up on the podcast he did tonight was the public's assumption, that, oh gosh, this must be from steroids. And it's like, well, no, it's from painkillers. Yeah, well, that's fun. Thank you. That's fun enough. What Dorian was saying, my role is really these days, that my role, if I'm going to give myself a role, it should be that, to speak about the fact that I've been ill from 34 up until now. And it's only in the last couple of years, ironically, since COVID, the last, 666 days of my life, that I've gotten better than I have been in the last 14 years. Fortunately, I only had to do just over 4 years on dialysis before my brother gave me his kidney. This is all from painkillers, and of course I took the painkillers because I had a very aggressive spine tumour, and I lost 2 ribs and 2 vertebrae and 3 discs and my L2 root nerve, and I still got no feeling below the waist, of course, but I can walk and I can stand. I'm very grateful that I didn't succumb to that tumour. Giant cell tumour, for those of you that like oncology. So yeah, chronologically, the leg was almost amputated just below the knee in '07. That was through anterior and posterior cruciate ligaments both being severed, and medial collateral ligaments and lateral collateral ligaments. So all 4 ligaments being severed in an altercation. And yeah, so leg, then kidneys, then spine. No, or leg, spine, kidneys. Yeah, sorry, tell a lie, leg, spine, kidneys in that order, yes, because the kidneys happened with the painkillers from the spine, of course. I couldn't walk for 14 months, on my back for 12 of those 14 months, etc., etc., etc. And then just from the kidney biopsy, collapsed lung, sepsis, pneumonia 2 times each, thrombocytopenia, pleural effusion ×2, pleural adhesion. The list goes on. It becomes quite boring. And then the more recent stuff, couple of heart attacks, 2 stents. So I've been getting better and better and better. So I just think now, as I get towards 50, my goal is to get better with age. That's the thing. I've had so many years of illness, and being hospitalised, and Dorian was saying to me the other day, that really could be your role, where I could hopefully help people to power through, especially people involved in training and bodybuilding, because there is a tendency now with sort of the modern day, because my bodybuilding career was a 27-year thing from 1990 till 2017. Obviously, I retired in 2007, but continued for another decade teaching, because I was teaching from, 92 till 2017. So yeah, long time in the industry, and I've been out for the last 4 years, getting better and better. So that's the one thing. It's a cautionary tale, and also hopefully just to help other people that might have spine injuries, leg injuries, heart attacks, kidney problems, anything like that. I could help them with. Yeah, that'd be cool. But anyway, moving on. Like I said, I won't go to say too much, because otherwise it becomes. What I will do is I've got to learn to do, or be taught, or to have an editor, because I'd love to share all this stuff on screen. I mean, I've got in my kitchen now, we're very lucky in the UK, we have the National Health Service. I would be absolutely dead, guys, if it wasn't for our NHS. The NHS, it would be, I think my longest hospital stay was 166 or 165 days. So it's very routine for me to spend 3 to 6 months at a time in hospital. And you do acquire sort of perspective, proportion, and humility, because I would see, a quadriplegic. I would see people with limbs missing and think, gosh, I'm ever so lucky. So now, even though, I still can't feel the floor, I still can't feel my legs. Obviously, you have extreme neuropathy and dermatomes. So, I can't, feel anything below the waist, and nothing works down there, of course. So, you have retrograde ejaculation, you have anejaculation, and so both of the above is, there's nothing happening there. But I didn't succumb to that tumour, and I had a very good oncologist and orthopedic surgeon, and radiation therapy as well, and and then straight into dialysis, and it's been a smorgasbord of shit. Yeah, it's been a lot. It's been a hell of a lot. But my bloods are good. My creatinine is good. My heart rate is good. My blood pressure is good. Everything seems to be pretty good from, like I say, 15, 16 years of battling to not die. It's funny when a gastroenterologist and a nephrologist, obviously kidney, renal, and an oncologist and an orthopedic surgeon and every other ist, they say to you on multiple occasions, you should be dead by now, and it became quite funny. It became quite funny having meetings with doctors and professors, and they were like, how did you not die on this one? And even small stuff like, cellulitis that would develop into sepsis very quickly, that would develop into pneumonia, because you're immunologically compromised. And obviously, I'm on anti-rejection immunosuppressants forever to keep the kidney working. So yeah, it is what it is. It is what it is. But look, today is day 666 for me, mark of the beast. I keep my mental health in check by doing what I've just said, is to really look a bigger picture. Like I'll look at people online that literally are a torso. There are people online, there are people on Instagram who are just a torso. There are people online, that have stepped on a, IED, in Afghanistan, and veterans, and they've come back and, they've lost their lower half. And I think I'm lucky I have my legs still. I can do this. I have arms still, So what you do acquire is you make it scalable. You make it, and then the flip side is you might have someone in your life. It could be yourself. It could be your children if you have children, and they'll come in screaming, going, "Oh, I've got a hurty elbow. I've got a hurty elbow, and a hurty finger," and that's everything to them. So I never mock, or get reductive when people come to me and say, "Oh, I've got tennis elbow, Justin. What shall I do?" Or "I've got a hurty knee. What shall I do?" I never laugh at them and go, "Do you know what I've had?" I don't do that shit. Um, you know, um, it's not right. You make shouldn't gauge it. Just because I've been through, just the medical sort of, this plethora of stuff that's just horrendous. I mean, literally taped to my kitchen medicine cupboard. Also I've got all my drugs in there, but it's my list of stuff. I was explaining to a friend tonight that just the repeated collapsed lungs, and just threading through your thorax to just aspirate and drain lungs when they've collapsed, and filling with blood and water, and this horrible feeling of drowning. It's very, very frightening. And that ultimately leads, so it's called a pleural effusion. If you watch things like, dramas like they are exactly, they're very hard to quantify, and I think it's a very personal thing. It's like, perspective and proportion by definition have to be personal, and we all hope to acquire grace, don't we, one day? It's like, how can you exercise your humility? Well, by learning a sense of perspective and proportion. How do you do that? Through anecdotal, acquired, lived experience. And that's, the older you get, and well, it doesn't even need to be an age thing, actually. Just some people could be 10, living in Syria, or living in, I don't know, just, you've only got to go online to look at people 30 years younger than me, perhaps, that have lived through a lot more. Be thankful for our Western culture, be thankful for our medical institutions and our hospitals. I know I'm very thankful for our NHS. Our National Health Service kept me alive. If I was having to, exactly, empathy, absolutely. Yeah, you do. You get sympathy and empathy. Our National Health Service here in the UK, I get blown away when people complain about our National Health Service. They'll complain about waiting times and go, they had to wait for 8 hours. And I just literally burst out laughing because, I'd rather wait for 8 hours, and which has been just standard for me. You walk into A&E, presenting and, just bleeding or whatever, or, finding it hard to breathe, and they'll get you into resus. And, I've had so many dozens of terrible experiences that I'm just grateful to be treated. The VA, what's the VA? Is that the Veterans Association? I don't know. What's the VA? Let me know what the VA is. I am guessing. I don't know what the VA is. Does that mean Veterans Association? Tell me what acronym that is. But yeah, it's, I don't know. I just think, again, it's humility. There's always someone worse off, isn't there? There's always somebody that's suffering more. So yeah. I'll tell you the other person that's God, this sounds terrible. Oh, okay. On that note, obviously you'll know Jocko Willink, or be aware of Jocko Willink, and you know he's another one that sent me like all these tweets. Like think of someone as big as Jocko. If you remember Jocko Willink when he first appeared on Rogan's podcast, probably 6 years ago, 7 years ago, and no one really knew who Jocko was, unless they were into MMA. Specifically Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, but I remember like let me just be very very honest. You know what? I've never sent a message to Jocko Willink that he hasn't responded to. It might take him 12 days, but he always responds to a message, just to justify suffering when it might be good for us to use it in the other direction. That's interesting. Yeah, yeah, interesting. IDK. What does IDK mean? What does IDK mean? God, I'm so dumb. I'm so dumb. What does IDK mean? Right, so okay. So I'm blanking on what IDK means. I'm being a dumbass. Yeah, Jocko, right? There's another one. I mean, I know I shouldn't do it because it's like dining out, but I have a pinned tweet, and this I'm going to sound like a complete prick saying this, but I will unashamedly say it on my Twitter account, which of course is TrueHouse. Um, and I've got, like, it's not a big account, it's a few hundred, 300 and something, whatever. Um, I've got a pinned tweet, and I think what did he say to me? You set an awesome example, Justin, or something. Let me show it to you. But it's such a dickhead move for me to be. But then again, I feel a sense of pride because I'm a Jocko fan. Yeah, I've only got 329 followers. There you go. I probably can't see it actually here, but it's not even showing on the screen, is it? Does that even show on the screen? I don't know if that can even be seen. Don't know. You set an awesome example, Justin, and that was 2018. But for a busy man, for a man that, and we've had loads of texts, but like when I lost my mum, when my mum died, Jocko was super sweet, and I kept all his messages. And I'm thinking, dude, you're a really busy guy with a really big audience, and probably gets thousands, doesn't he? I can only imagine the number of emails Jocko gets. And he's never, there's not a single occasion. And just think about how I doubt these people run their own accounts. I doubt it very much. But nonetheless, every single time he's responded, and then vice versa. And then, you know, like he knew about the special boat service where I live here, the SBS. Obviously, I have the SAS, our special air service, which is pretty well known across the world. And locally to me here in Poole in Dorset, we have the SBS. So you've got the special air service, special boat service, which is equivalent to their Navy SEALs. And of course, Jocko's a SEAL. And I mentioned this to him, and he knew exactly where it was, just up the road from where I live here. And it just occurred to me. I thought, there's all these really sort of good people we've got, like Cameron Haynes and Rogan, and Goggins, of course, Dave Goggins, and Jocko, and it's like, thanks, man. Thanks for always, just messaging back and forth. And he might just send me a couple of words like, hang in there, Just, stay strong, Justin. Talking about my old pain, my old addictions, and mum dying, and my spine, and just combating the pain. And he always got back, or just sent me a little text. And I thought, you're a really busy guy, and you can still do that to little old me. So, good human being Jocko is. And yeah, all these people, whether it's, Rogan or Dorian or Jocko, they're just people like us. They've achieved, and I think that's what makes us normies look to these fellow men and we get, motivated by them. Um, I, in terms of just helping out, or should I say giving back to the culture, giving back to my community, giving back to the community that I spent a 27-year career in. Certainly now, let me give you another example. God, I sound like such a cock because I'm dropping more names. There's a really good documentary maker called Chris Bell who made Bigger, Stronger, Faster, Prescription Thugs, A Leaf of Faith, and discussing everything from Kratom to his own brother. Obviously, there's three brothers: Mike, Mark, and Chris. And Mike is no more. Well, and Rosemary, that their mother's no more. The Bell family have become like America's family. Father Mike, and of course Mark Smelly Bell and Chris Bell. And Mark Bell ran the super training gym, and Chris Bell makes documentaries and works with brother Mark. And their other brother Mike died, on opiates. And I got chatting to Chris back in 2016. I was in Florida at the time, and it was because he remembered me from back in the day when I lived at Venice Beach. And he wanted to know about the whole story with me, with the kidney failure and, the painkillers and the role that played in his brother's life. So it's nice. It's encouraging to a regular chap like me to know of people that are in that kind of sphere, dare I say, just 1 degree of separation. Because everyone I've named, from Chris Bell to Jocko to Dorian, they've all three have appeared on the Rogan podcast, and to just a normal bloke like me, of course I'd like to be on Rogan. I'd be very willing and happy to be on Rogan, and it's just to talk to those three that I've mentioned. It's like from a geek's point of view, just put my geek hat on, just from a sheer geek out. Us blokes geek out over these other blokes. We do. I do. You probably do. I do. You know what I mean? Exactly. So Mark, right? And Mark used to be a fat shit. He got himself in shape, and so was Chris. I have, like, that's another thing. Like, my mum died. Here's the thing about Chris and Mark, right? The day my mum died, right, Chris was training with Mark, and he stopped his workout to text me because my mum had just died. And then later on, when his mum died, I did the same thing, and I've had this really nice relationship. I've done some filming for Chris as well. Probably lying on the cutting room floor for shit B-roll, but the point being, I'm a geek, and all in this funny industry of, that research people's history and details always super cool to me, but it's I geek out over these people. I geek out over a Jocko, or a Rogan, or Chris, because they're like, we're all blokes. We're all, actually, Americans use blokes too much. We're all dudes. We're all blokes. We're all men. And then we all enjoy the same thing. Like we enjoy, training, or there's only so many degrees of separation between us all, right? So it could be boxing, it could be MMA, fast motorbikes, fast cars. Do you know what I mean? Yeah, exactly. He is cool. And his stand-up podcast is good. Like, they've discussed me on that. There's some funny footage from a couple of years ago where Chris is on Mark's podcast, and they've got another guy from Venice on, whose name completely escapes me, and Chris tells the story about well, he says my whole name. He says Justin House from England, and it was during my time at Venice Beach. And he tells a funny story about something I used to do when I was living in Venice, and there was a store called Max Muscle, um, just basically up from on Hampton, just up from Gold's Gym in Venice, just on Rose and Hampton. There was a great store there called Max Muscle, and I used to frequent that store between 2000 and 2003. And Chris tells a funny story to his brother about me, which it's a funny YouTube clip anyway. But just from a geek point of view, all I'm saying is this entire universe, whether it's training, like I say, fast cars, fast bikes, whether it's any sort of training, whatever your discipline, if you're into boxing or MMA or rock climbing or shooting, or do you know what I mean, or running, or if you've served in the military, or there seems to be, this is why Rogan is very eclectic, isn't it? There's a lot of people that films and comedy and stand up, and there's all these universes, and I like the fact, like with Dorian, and there's all these combined worlds correctly colliding and collabing, and I like the collaborative climate. I like the world that's being created. I like the conversation that culturally that's occurring. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay. Well, they had loads, dude. The good thing about Max Muscle, their head office was in Anaheim. It was Sean Green and Joe Wells. They began Max Muscle in '85. I was actually employed by them. I didn't get my H1B, my visa in time, but you could franchise out. You could be a franchisee or a franchisor or whatever. So there were lots of branches of Max Muscle around America. And it was at the 2000 Olympia. Obviously, I wasn't there as a competitor. I was there as a spectator. That was Ronnie's third, and I still have a good friendship with a guy called Chris Cormier. I got really close to Chris Cormier and Tom Prince. This was all before Craig Titus and Kelly had killed people. Anyway, it's another day we can talk about Melissa James and the whole Vegas thing. But anyway, I digress. Max Muscle, and that particular Venice Beach Max Muscle was synonymous with what we called at the time, or what I was labelled, the Venice Mafia by Max Muscle HQ. And this all came to a head at the 2000 Olympia. And it was like, send in the Brit guy, he'll do a cleanup because the store's getting a bad rep. And I was like, but I'm part of that bad rep. And it was a funny time. It was a funny time. And there were bodybuilders like Paul Dillett and, like I say, Craig Titus and Tom Prince and Chris Cormier and Flex Wheeler. It was a fun time. It was a glorious time. It was a glorious 3 years of my life, and I got deeply involved. Anyway, we can have those anecdotes another night. And there's a guy called Dave Borlay who worked for head office, who's still, he became friends with Jay Cutler, and I remember Jay Cutler before. I don't think even Muscle Tech was sponsoring him. I think Jay Cutler was sponsored by ISS Research at the time. But anyway, it's just the fickleness of bodybuilding and pros and the drugs and the sex and the rock and roll. The whole thing was just a cornucopia of chaos. It really was. I can't talk about it without a smirk on my face, because it was a very heady time. And I was lucky enough to see the last 3 years of that type of bodybuilding in Venice Beach. Anyway, so yeah. I think, that's 50 minutes now of me just waffling and waffling and waffling. Thank you, Jay, for starting me with the whole mushroom thing. There's no lesson plan with these live streams, as it were. There's, all I can say is day 666 for me, episode 455. I hope it's been a good one. There's always satellite spin-offs. There's always things to talk about there's many stones I've left unturned. There's many subjects that I've just done a hopscotch, and I feel like a imposter, really, like a lily pad. It's like I've jumped from one topic to another without even really exploring any properly or deeply. That's partly your fault. But thank you very much. Yeah, I don't know how this will sound. I certainly won't watch it back. I can't bear listening to these or watching me. It's just nice of you guys to be here. So look, I will be back tomorrow night. Thank you for the conversation. Thank you for joining. Thank you for listening. Thank you for contributing. Thank you for engaging. Thank you, sir. I really appreciate you. And hey, look, I've stayed awake. This is good for me. I do have a coffee next to me in my, this is my, careful, this is my Boba Fett. Okay, so there you go. It's my Boba Fett, the book of Boba, of course, Boba. Absolutely, Jay. No, thank you. You've given me some great. You've been brilliant tonight, because you've come in there with you've punctuated the stream by going this and this and this. I'm like, oh yeah. So big up you, sir. Thank you. Yeah, I'll be back tomorrow night, and I just I don't know, man. There's this live stream would be so much better if I can get technical help. Thank you. I mean, here's my frustration, mate. I've got no shortage of content. I've got no shortage of, it's like just verbal diarrhea, very, very verbose. So I've got no shortage of stuff to say, but I need, tech editing help. And like literally sat in front of me now is my 2020 iPad Pro, which, just watching one of my favorite people in the world, Owen Benjamin. I'm a big Owen Benjamin fan, obviously removed from YouTube, the whole Unbearables. I love Beartaria. I love Owen Benjamin. I adore him. I mean, he's 6'7", 6'8". So anyone 2 inches taller than me, I'm going to love. But he does it off his stream, like when you see him at his piano, it's like an iPad or a MacBook Pro, and he's sharing screens. I'm thinking, how do I do this? How do I learn, open broadcast software? How do I do this? So I don't know. I just keep yapping about this. No. Don't say sorry, man. Don't say sorry. I'm grateful you did. Thank you for doing it. Do it more often. Because it helps. It helps me with the tempo, and it helps me with not getting bogged down. Because you know what I'm like. I'll start to over talk about something. I'll over talk it, and I'll get bogged down in my own, dialogue, as it were. And then if you give me a new subject, if you say, oh, what about this? What about that? I'll jump on that. And if I know about it, I'm going to talk about it. So there you go. All right. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Jay. Nice to see you. I'll be back tomorrow night. Same face, same time, same place, same face. I'm going to shut down Instagram first tonight. So good night, Instagram. Thank you very much. That's that gone. And I'm going to say good night to you. So, okay. See you tomorrow. Cheers. Hopefully.